The terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, changed everything. The terrorists did not just attack the United States, they attacked the foundations of the UN Charter. Thousands of miles away from the American homeland, a friend welcomed us. That friend was Djibouti. This year, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Djiboutians inviting us to stay at Camp Lemonnier.
Horrific scene.
That's
and
all right. We've just been told also,
God.
Michael, sorry, the New York Stock Exchange is being evacuated, as is, I'm sure, much of.
6, 7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you what's going on.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. Live picture from Washington. There is smoke pouring out of the Pentagon.
That day I had put my sons on the bus early in the morning. They were very young at the time. I heard on the news a plane struck the Trade Center. So we turned the TV on, and we see the second plane impact the Trade Center. I'm like, all right. First thing I do is I call work. I'm like, we have a call out to like get into work. Terrific. Grab my bag, pack my stuff. Tell my wife, said, whatever you do, stay home, get the boys, make sure they're okay. I'll give you a call as soon as I find anything out. Coming into New York City and then down at ground zero, having like the most eerie silence, even though there was work going on. It was like a hum, but you didn't have the overriding air traffic. Then the first air traffic we heard were fighter planes. You don't expect to see fighter planes over New York City. Everybody was mad as hornets. I mean, we were attacked. Our friends, our families, our co-workers were killed. The only thing anybody could compare it to was Pearl Harbor, and that was New York's Pearl Harbor. And then we started hearing the U.S. military is saying special operations personnel into Afghanistan, into Iraq, and et cetera, and you're like, retribution is coming.
We were actually on our way to Camp Victory, Iraq, and we flew into Camp Arif Jan, Kuwait, and we were received that evening by our company first sergeant, at which time we were informed that 10 of you are going to Djibouti, Africa. I was identified as one of the 10, and we actually got on a plane, a C-130, that very next morning, and flew directly here to Djibouti, Africa. The feelings and the mindset at the time were completely different than they are now, with 9/11 being as fresh as it was. The posture was different. The force pro conditions were completely different, and everybody's kind of sensitivity and awareness were definitely much more heightened at the time. I would say that in 2005, Camp Lemonnier was maybe a quarter of the size it is now. So Camp Lemonnier was established as a garrison base for the French Foreign Legion, and it was handed off to us in 2002 by the country of Djibouti.
It was a very small French base at that time. My first thoughts when we saw the Americans arrive here was that we will finally get some assistance. We will finally get some help. We consider the camp as one of our regions. We have 6 regions that we take care of, and we consider the camp as a 7th.
Why would the United States build a camp in Djibouti, the hottest mean average temperature posting in the entire world? It's hotter than Iraq, the Persian Gulf. It's hot and humid. But because this is a forward deployed operations, and we had Al Qaeda in Somalia, we had in Yemen, it's the perfect location, but very difficult, extraordinarily difficult conditions. And leading up to it, we kind of looked at where could we go to help with the U.S. military. And the French and the Djiboutians said, let's go to Camp Lemonnier, which was a former French Foreign Legion facility. The Djiboutians basically took all their troops out. They said, okay, we're taking our troops out, you can have it.
Me and my brother were the first village elders that got in contact with the Americans. They came in big cruisers, and my first thought was that it was a government visit. But they got out and came into the village and made their way to the fields. I was in the middle of my field and they came to see me. They asked me how I was and how my family was, and if I had ever heard of Americans. The only thing I had heard about Americans was that they were in Kenya and Ethiopia. Then they asked me who assisted me with my crops and my fields, and I told them that we usually got help from the French. So they said, we will assist you with your fields. They also saw people getting water from the well and asked, what if we built a water tank so people can grab water from there? The camp had no water at that time, so they bought water from my well. I was the one providing water for the local area and for the military. You can even track down in certain documents that I was the first friend of the Americans.
5 years later, amid the growing importance of Africa, especially the Horn of Africa, the United States established the U.S. Africa Command to protect American interests and support our allies and partners.
So our relationship with our partners here in Djibouti is extremely important. The value of it really can't be overstated. It's very heavily focused on training and interoperability, on getting to know each other's capabilities so that when the time comes for us to be able to work together at a moment when we need to, that we're able to do so. Since I've been here, we have had an increased relationship when it comes to training exercises, specifically training exercises that involve both our partners and Djiboutian armed forces as well. So we've been able to participate in exercises like Walkry and Bull Shark, which really showcase our ability to operate in a way that is productive, that is efficient, with French forces, UNAV-4 forces, other forces, and the Djiboutians as well. Like in any other relationship, trust is really built on whether or not you can follow through on your word. So the plans that we make, the projects that we undertake, as long as we're bringing them to completion and we're looping our partners in and we're looping the host nation in and we're showing that we are capable of following things to fruition, then yes, we'll continue to build trust here in Djibouti.
In the aftermath of the tragedy, we built a local response force to protect Americans across East Africa.
Tuesday night at the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, a complex and highly dangerous situation. Outside, an anti-American protest. Then, a group of heavily armed militants, approximately 24 of them, launched an attack firing rocket-propelled grenades.
That's why we're here. The East Africa Response Force, or the ERF, is the result of what we saw in Benghazi. Task Force Red Dragon, our predecessors, and all other task forces provide the AFRICOM commander and the CJTF-HOA commander with an immediate response force to be able to provide flexible response to the Department of Defense should the Department of State request. We will go wheels up within 6 hours to get where we're needed during crisis. Our mission is to provide two functions. One is security, and the other is crisis response, specifically military-assisted departure. When the ERF deploys in support of U.S. embassies or our interests, we'll arrive and augment into existing security. We have a planned area of operations, but the ERF has the capabilities to respond anywhere on the continent. We deter violent extremist organizations in East Africa from threatening the United States, our citizens, and our interests, as well as building the defense capabilities and capacity, and ultimately, the safety and security of our partner nations.
But the bigger problem, I think, was the threats coming into Djibouti and to any Arab League country that supported the United States by the Al-Qaedas and later on by ISIS. But President Gilley at that time, he was an intelligence officer, his background, and he understood that the threats are not going to go away, they're going to continue. And I think he put his lock with the United States, the French, and the allied countries. And that you have to really tip your head up, because he got a lot of threats from a lot of terrorist organizations. Djibouti was very earmarked for a lot of threat activities.
In the meantime, in Djibouti, the development of Al-Shabaab in Somalia was looming a gloomy future. Many Djiboutians took out safe horizons. 20 years later, not only Al-Shabaab, but all other evils in the region like Al-Qaeda, pirates were kept at bay. The presence of the American military presence in the continent, has expanded across the continent, Sub-Sahara and Austral Africa, and this presence is a deterring terror.
As new challenges and opportunities arose, we reoriented ourselves to a changing continent and recommitted ourselves to working by, with, and through our African partners. With new actors in the theater, new threats to assess, and new friendships to be made, the United States looks to grow with our partners and expand our capabilities while minimizing risks.
Well, it's a fantastic relationship that we've had with this country for many years, and it's been very strong, especially for the last 20 years. And when I arrived, I found it really remarkable the way that we work so closely together on providing security to the region. We share so many of the same objectives, especially in Somalia, with our missions there to support the ATMIS, AU mission in Somalia, training forces, supporting the Djiboutian forces, and Djibouti's support to American forces that are keeping Somalia stable and making sure that we're securing that country. And that has a corollary benefit for Djibouti, and that with our forces based here, we've been able to help develop Djibouti's economy and provide a lot of jobs to Djiboutians. So it's been a great win-win relationship for many years now.
As you know, the Camp Lemonnier, the CLDJ, is the breadbasket of many Djiboutian families. After the state company, is the second employer in the country.
Like I said, because of those shared interests, the fact that we have so much in common, and the fact that we see the region often in the same way. We have the same goals in Somalia. We're working together to try to find solutions in Ethiopia. And we even are looking broader in the region toward Yemen and other places where we're trying to support peace processes. And our approach has been very similar to Djibouti's for all these years. We talk about diplomacy, development, and defense. And here in Djibouti, you really see the fusion of all three in the way we approach the country. Obviously, on the diplomatic front, we're working together to bring peace to the region, especially in Somalia, Ethiopia, and Yemen. In terms of development, we try to leverage the fact that we have a base here to create more jobs for Djiboutians. And we have many development programs that incorporate the US military. We have projects running across the country that benefit average Djiboutians. And from the part of the US Agency for International Development, we have programs that are key to helping Djibouti develop for the future, educating the youth, training people for jobs, and developing the economy.
The U.S. government invested, I think, around a $1.2 million, what they call UN Level 1 field hospital for the Djiboutian government. We gave them training, and we actually transitioned that hospital to them in July. And we're helping the FAD, as well as the Minister of Health, get the hospital up and going, and hopefully fighting measles in the Tajura and Obak regions.
For 2 decades, America's only enduring U.S. military installation in Africa has kept watch by, with, and through our Djiboutian friends and allies, countering the free world's enemies and bringing stability and prosperity in East Africa.
We see a very bright future between the two countries. I think the fundamentals will always be there. We will always want a secure and prosperous region. We hope to always have a strong and effective military base here. We know that the Djiboutian partners will be welcoming to us, as they always have been, and we want to be good partners and good residents here in Djibouti.
It's a genuine honor to serve as the Commanding General of CJTF-HOA. I stand on the shoulders of giants, both Djiboutian and American, who have grown and strengthened this partnership for 20 years. I want to celebrate many more anniversaries. I want to grow the friendship with the Djiboutian people. Djibouti will always be a special place for the United States, for many reasons, but for one in particular. When the United States was attacked on 9/11, when we needed a friend the most, when we needed a friend in this region, Djibouti was that friend. They gave us a home. They gave us a place from which we could bring justice to the enemies of the free world. And they partnered with us to bring stability and prosperity to East Africa. We'll never forget that. I'll never forget. The United States will never forget.